ancient man, and that the cycle that we're coming into in our life for the rest of our lives, we may very well see the same things, such as squatter man and the spirals we're seeing. Spirals.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, I actually am too, because I
Yeah.
wanted to be an astronaut and all that. So I'm an avid space weather enthusiast, so I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm not really looking forward to some of maybe the devastation or the changes in the electromagnetic field that we may have to go through, but
Yeah, 2024 in October seems to be an integral crossing point of energies as well. So, with the distractions that we're coming into, with the lack of food on the planet, where we can't really just physically grow it anymore enough to feed the populace. All right. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Guess who came out to visit? Celeste Solum. What are we going to talk about today? I'm always about this Tonga eruption ruining Southern Hemisphere crop production. It's coming to the point now where it's measurable. I got this video I've been working on to try to get it out today with Australian temperatures definitely measuring each month a little cooler, where it's measurable after the eruption, which is going to probably take 50% of agricultural production down out of the Southern Hemisphere. So where does that then leave us for the Northern Hemisphere? That's the question. And Celeste, we wanted to talk about cornucopia. We're coming into Thanksgiving, something I hadn't heard really much about, and suddenly, whoosh, this is on the dinner table for me. So, yeah, well, we're just going to have a little tennis session here with the ideas. But it seems like that is normal to go underground. And there's like all these cities all over the planet, and dolmens and all these things that have been, like when I drove you up from town, there used to be a bunch of Indian burial mounds out in that big flat area out there, like 100 of them. And they all got bulldozed and flattened over the last 120 years or something.
so do the locals say they had giants in them?
Nah, I got a couple old archaeology books from around the time, and no, nobody at that point was really looking for that. It was just they bulldozed them because they were in the way, and nobody cared and didn't honor their history, and whatever bits of jewelry, gold, whatever was there was just taken and then either sold off somewhere or it made it into the local museum.
The reason
Some bones and things like this, but I don't remember hearing any stories of giants around here.
Well, the reason I asked, pay attention.
Get my notepad out.
Because you have friends out there in the woods you told me about before we went on air. So I was approached at a conference by a man from Egypt, and he said that the Smithsonian, who is the collector of the giant bones that were found in different graves, but also a lot of burial mounds.
Mm-hmm.
And the Smithsonian took them and put them in their archive system where nobody gets to see them really. He told me that they were going to begin repatriating them to their indigenous land with a little added bonus, hydrogel to reanimate them. So, and I have been following the news because that intrigued me, that all of a sudden you could have this giant springing up that you really hadn't anticipated, like literally from the grave, with this electromagnetic frequency that they can do with the interaction of hydrogel, bringing back, I mean, they're talking about bringing back extinct dinosaurs and pharaohs and this kind of thing. It's the same technology. But what's interesting is it might be in your backyard if you're in those areas where the mounds were, because they are actively repatriating those bones, which I find really interesting.
David and Goliath.
Yeah. So how do you fight against
Aim
the
for the
giant?
eye. Aim for the eye. That's what I've been told.
Copper.
I don't know, I've been told anything that we have in modern weaponry won't really penetrate the bones or the skull. The Kandahar giant story out of the U.S. military took what, like a squad of guys?
Yep.
Full auto, big, heavy things that most people don't have at their homes.
Yeah. Yeah.
to even have a standing chance with that.
Not very much fun, but it wouldn't be very much fun to wake up one day and there's this big giant, knocking at your door saying, Fee-fi, fo-fum, I spill the blood of an Englishman, you know, and they're cannibals. They like humans for food.
Yeah, the stories go. There's a really good book called Us and Them, if you've ever seen this one. It was about the time and the stories, and somebody got all these legends and just decade of research of all the stories about why things go bump in the night and why human, like Homo sapiens are afraid of nighttime, and the stories and everything from Hansel and Gretel, like a million different real tales and stories. But it was a whole thing about the Homo sapien trying to survive the Neanderthals when we both coexisted on the planet at the same time. Like the Neanderthals were a nighttime species, and the Homo sapien, us, were the daytime species. But there was overblending time of they would be hunting us. So on the inverse, then the Homo sapien was like, oh, that's too much of a threat. We're going to go look for them. And that was why it was us and them. But even to go back that far into history, 40,000, 50,000 years ago, and sort of where some of these stories came from, it's really interesting about how many hominid species have coexisted, because then we come into today's world where they're seemingly trying to bring out a new species of human at the same time. So in 50,000 years from now, if you're going to read an Us and Them book, we'd be the Homo sapien and the new transhumanist, whatever, are two hominid species coexisting together. Yeah. For how long, though?
Yeah, I don't know.
And which one hunted the other one out, or which one became too dangerous where they had to then go on the offense?
Yeah, I think they were pretty well balanced, where if we go with a techno-human or transhuman, I mean, you'd be dealing with AI, which, I mean, the brain computing power of an AI indwelled in a humanoid. I mean, that would be a formidable foe. I mean, a real formidable foe. Because they'd be quick. They'd have the agility. I mean, the whole exoskeleton,
augmented tech,
super soldier program and everything. But then also the brain. They can think so much faster than we can. Once heard a speaker speak on that, and who helped develop this whole program, Hugo de Garis, and he's to that type of techno transhuman humanoid, we would be like ants or bugs, but there will be a war at some point to see, and will we become food for them? I don't know. Humans are very resilient. We have been throughout history, so maybe we're up for the task. But we have to that's the one reason, for another good reason for growing your own food and staying healthy, drinking pure water, clean air supply as best you can, and just keeping well.
Yeah, the threats that are going to come are going to be something that some of them will be expected, obviously. Mm-hmm. But some of them are going to be unexpected, where you're like, that just blew me out of left field.
Yeah, so I brought Patriot's book. So he is a physicist who has taken some of the hieroglyphs and can demonstrate that these are actual physics events that happened in the skies above us to ancient man, and that the cycle that we're coming into in our life for the rest of our lives, we may very well see the same things, such as squatter man and the spirals we're seeing. Spirals.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, I actually am too, because I wanted to be an astronaut and all that. So I'm an avid space weather enthusiast, so I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm not really looking forward to some of maybe the devastation or the changes in the electromagnetic field that we may have to go through, but
yeah, 2024 in October seems to be an integral crossing point of energies as well. So with the distractions that we're coming into, with the lack of food on the planet, where we can't really just physically grow it anymore enough to feed the populace. Okay, that's the thing. You got to get more self-sufficient. That's it. Check that one off. But when we come into like either a dual magnetic field toroid, looping magnetic field, or some sort of turn down in the sun's magnetic output, which will affect our own Earth's crust and then the atmosphere, these kind of things people aren't prepared for, and how do you even survive through it? I'm not even thinking about that at that point. It's almost like, will there be a rift in dimensionality that you can step into? Because at some point in 2024 October, around the 23rd or 24th of October in 2024, it seems like we're going to come into this thing called the block wall, which is two looping toroid fields that cancel each other out, like a Bose headset noise canceling system, but in a magnetic field canceling system. So how would the human behave in a zero magnetic field, literally zero magnetic field? For however long that would be. It could be minutes, seconds, an hour, half hour, whatever. But how could the human exist in that? Because we need that orientation to even make our brains function.
Yeah, I don't know that we could fathom it. I mean, there is you can be in, they've done those physics experiments where matter can exist in 2 points in time. But what I've learned, because my next webinar is going to be on frequency and healing and that type of thing. So I'm digging into my research. I brought my books with me, but of course when you're driving and visiting with awesome people like yourself, you don't get a lot of research done, but we all have a number of nanoparticles in us. And one of the first things I learned about those nanoparticles is it changes the spin of the atoms in our body and our magnetism. And I thought, that is interesting. Now, what is the point of that? Because the elite always have a reason for it. And how is that going to either play for our benefit or to our detriment into what's coming? I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to be deep diving into those questions and answers and trying to ferret it out and tease it out and see what I can come up with. So I'll be posting you, letting you know about that as my research.
There's always nuggets out there, but I don't have any idea either, other than ancient accounts of those who survived this same event.
Yep.
That have passed down. Now it's called mojo legend or something, and nobody in the modern era wants to believe it. But what we're heading into is just a repeating chapter of history, and just a much longer duration. The chapter is much, much longer.
I agree. And it's caused the fall of civilizations, the change in economy, and I know you've talked about all of these things. Literary, in some period cycles of time, there's a lot of great literary and artistic works, and in other parts it goes dark and, things are suppressed. Mythological creatures appear out of nowhere, like the Sasquatch.
Well, the reason I brought up that Neanderthal us and them story is because David and Goliath, if you're talking about the Neanderthals, or even Denisovans, you go back another 40,000 years prior to the Neanderthals, and Denisovans and Neanderthals were inhabiting the same space. But they were giants, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in stature, gigantic, and they lived to be several hundred years old. It's like, compare that with the modern human. What do we live to be, 100? Stature's not that big. Compared to something that lives to be, Methuselah in the Bible, 900 years old.
Yeah.
And the giants of the earth of the time. I mean, you talk something that's 900 years old, 12 feet tall, intelligent, and 50 times faster than you. I mean, these things are out there, and I'm so fascinated by prehistory and these legends that then lead us to some conclusions that, something, magnetic field changes, whatever, something was much larger that lived at that point, that was conscious.
And then there's creatures under our feet. So I did an article on some of the legends that have been passed down of the different layers under the earth. And how they, like one of them in the middle earth, they would use the water channels, of aquifer you might say, to interact with beings on another level. It was really a fascinating. That's over at shepherdsheart.life. That article, Creatures of the Netherworld or something like that. It was a fascinating and people have interacted with these creatures under the earth for some time.
You also have to wonder how much of that is the electromagnetic frequency change, where your visual spectrum becomes enlarged, where you actually see them. Because you say they popped out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they've always been there, but our frequency was not tuned in to see them, and then the frequency's there for some time, and then it goes back out of frequency again, and that was a legend. We've never found a fossil, we've never seen this, we didn't find bones.
Or it was hidden from people that wanted to keep certain parts of history in the dark.
That's a shout out to Smithsonian.
Yes, we like to learn about the Tartarians and all the different peoples that lived before. I mean, wouldn't it? I'm a student of history. I would love to have the freedom to have really learned our true history of humanity without, it being shoved under and hidden and lied about and classified and all that stuff.
Yeah, because a global liquefaction event, otherwise termed as a mud flood. Like, what's the cyclicity of that? Because, imagine if 25% of the buildings on the earth had sort of subsided in a liquefaction event and were buried up 1 to 2 floors deep. You literally have to start over. Your road level will be at the 2nd floor, and you have to knock all these doors in, which was the 2nd floor. And the entire Earth's littered with that type of stuff. So you wonder, was it the 1800s that caused that, or was it the 1600s? Because some of these cycles seem to overlap on the 400 year, the 200 year, but then there's a lot of these unknown bits of history. You're talking about that inner loop inside there. And where was their tech that we can't find?
Yeah.
We started over again? I just can't believe that.
And why did they destroy all those elaborate, expensive world fairs? Why did they do that? Like within a week after, or 6 months, implosion, we just have to get rid of it. And there's some remnants of it still out there, but not much. They did a very good job of annihilating it so that nobody, and these were fabulous, wouldn't it? I mean, they would have been great museums, just, even if they would have left them, and just the architecture of some of them, and the lights, and just the different things. They just did not have the technology to even put them together. So how did they even do it?
Nashville, Tennessee has the Parthenon. That's still there. If you have a chance to go visit that. The original, it was part of the World's Fair, and there were some other buildings that were far larger. And I saw the original, layout and blueprint. I was like, you guys destroyed stuff that would be Capitol building, most beautiful Capitol buildings, like 10 of them on the World's Fair, and you stripped them all down, and then try to rebuild something that was not even a quarter of the quality or size in a different part of town to pretend like it was new. But here's the thing. That Parthenon in Nashville was originally constructed of white marble, and what they did was they had a form around it, and then they had poured sort of like this brownish calcaday small rock mix, and they covered completely all the white marble, which made no sense to me. And you can go inside the museum there, and they have these form molds that they show how they pulled it around, and then they put the concrete outer layer to cover up the white marble all around. I'm thinking, why would you spend the time to cover up all the white marble like that? It made no sense to me either.
Maybe they covered it to change the frequency and the resonance of that. Because if you go into a capital, typically the capital, state capital, federal capital is marble. And there is definitely a frequency change from when you're outside to when you go in. And people that work in that environment, they don't notice it. But the average citizen, when they go in, it does produce this emotions of awe and fear. And I think that's one reason that many people don't feel like their representation, at least in our republic, is there because they instinctively, their body's saying draw back from it. But when you're in that environment all the time, it doesn't really impact you.
Seat of power.
The seat of power, yes. I guess that's what happens when you do your book reports at the Capitol, which is what I did. So I didn't have that fear, and I didn't appreciate that too much. But
you just kind of got into that. You picked up on that, and plugged into that frequency.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what frequency on what's going to happen with the Earth's crust in these changes, where you got iron ore, you got aluminum, bauxite, you got gold veins, silver veins. All these things are going to get electrified to the hilt here coming up. So
I'm watching the silica myself.
Silica?
Yes, because silica with this galactic electric current sheet and the kind of reducing of Earth's magnetosphere and the cosmic rays flooding in, there are a lot of ancient volcanoes that a lot of people don't even know are volcanoes. See, we know certain volcanoes, like Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, this Mount Baker, certain ones around, and even to some degree, some recent ancient volcanoes. But I'm talking ancient volcanoes, and is my understanding that ancient volcanoes with a high silica, I think that one that was down in Indonesia, that last one that went off like a couple years ago.
There are a lot of high silica in Indonesia, for sure. In Japan, too, like Sakurajima is another one.
So they can just, one day they're just like the ground we're sitting on right now, and the next day they're erupting because the electromagnetic frequency triggers the silica and activates the volcano to life. So those are the ones that I'm kind of watching out for in my own personal situational awareness report for my surroundings.
That'd be a good parameter to plug in, silica-based volcanoes.
Yeah. They're especially prone to
massive instantaneous just eruption where you put the current in, that vibrate, boom, and then it's off.
Right, and that those perimeters as far as the electromagnetic frequency are coming, our world is beginning to be flooded by that. So just something to pay attention to.
Grasshopper, hey, I could have eaten that one. Over there. I got us a snack.
Well,
family-friendly, advertiser-friendly video. We're going to eat a grasshopper.
I like mine chocolate covered. No, I'm not going to.
All right, thanks for the Christmas nudge list there. I got you covered. What percent do you think of people are going to survive through this event over here in the next 10 years? It seems like a lot of it's going to be just piling on top. It's going to come fast and furious. And you got to understand, the reason that the world is changing so much is it's coming fast and furious, and that needs to be masked, covered up, and you deflected away from understanding what's happening and spinning your head over here of all these causations man-made, when really in reality it seems a lot of it's going to be stacking up nature here on top of each other quick. Percentages of survival during the last of these events?
I say, so the last extinction level event, there was 10% survival, 10% of life survived. That includes animals, plants, humans. This time, I would say 3%, because we've got the added bonus of the elite plants.
Yeah, perhaps there were then at that point too. I'm wondering, in terms of cyclicity of how many times, because you look back 3,000 years at least, it's been the same power brokers for 3,000 years. How many times have they run this same show again? Because you look back in a lot of the iconography or carvings on rocks and stuff, and people are wearing wristwatches, and you start to see a lot of things in Egyptian hieroglyphs look like, flying craft, submarine, helicopters. So you just got to wonder, and some of these really oldest of statues that they're finding and carvings, it looks like they're holding mobile phones and things. So is it just the same thing repeated again? Because in 200 years, who's going to remember really what our tech was? If you can control the libraries, you can control the history. And we would never know. I mean, there could have been some amazing Tesla technologies at work for everybody to receive free power in the 1600s, and we would just think that they were still burning fireplaces back then and super way backwards, and they were sailing wood ships. But perhaps the reason they didn't have wood ships, or they were just getting into it, is because they had a different way to transport around. It'd be so easy to, 400 years ago, that'd be so easy to mass delete and then restart a new history. It's so easy. Have a couple world wars, destroy all the real tech that was left, and then...
Except that there are the remnants of the megalithic structures, like at Machu Picchu, you know, of course, the pyramids, the Sphinx. So there are some remnants there that, and a coral castle. I wanted to see the coral castle when I was in Florida, but I didn't get a chance to because this hurricane just got in my way.
Was that Coral Gables, or where was that place at?
It's on the Coral Castle.
Yeah, Coral Castle.
Yeah, but he moved all sorts of structures, and nobody knows how he did it. I would have liked to have seen it for myself to kind of, you know, you can see pictures of it, but it's not the same. Just like it wasn't the same seeing you on my device as in person. Because I think we miss out on the frequency, the human connection a little bit when we are looking at a device versus. But I would like to have seen some of these fabulous structures and know how they did it, because I've got that analytical mind. I'd love to go to Machu Picchu. My daughter got to go to Machu Picchu, and I haven't been there yet, but oh well. If I'm supposed to, I will. And
same with everything. If you're supposed to survive, you will.
Yeah, imagine if you didn't have to worry about food and, you know, your aches and your pains and slaving away at work and all the things that distract us, you know. How, if we could just sit here and just look and, you know, look at the beautiful sky here, the bird.
Look at all the hawks coming in here.
They are. They're just
so
soaring.
We got 2, 4, 6, 8,
There's
10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 27 hawks floating in on the thermals. Oh, and there's a whole bunch more behind there. Look how many behind there.
Wow. They don't usually...
I only counted the first bunch of 27. Now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
And more
coming.
16,
17, 18, 20.
Oh my gosh.
There's even 20 more. There's like 40 hawks up here. Look at them. They're all riding the thermals up through the valley. Oh, there's even more coming in. What? That is like truly the most I've ever seen.
I know. It's like this
50
migration.
hawks coming in at the same time. That is crazy.
It is crazy.
And look how high up they are, too. They're really catching those thermals.
Yeah, but
there's even more. That's like 60 now. 70.
Unbelievable.
You know, there's a lot of migration going on with the birds, too, because the geese have been coming through here. There's a pond down there. Stop over there. And there's a couple families of geese that stop here every year. And get some energy from the fish and whatever, and then blaze on. They just came through this last week again on their way south.
So I got to tell you this strange story, because this reminds me of the strange story. And isn't that surreal? The geoengineering.
Well, that one's really not staying up there. That looks like a true evaporative trail. That's what I remember as a kid.
It's kind of staying a little bit. Not as long as many of them, but... Yeah,
I remember planes would pass like that and they'd dissipate right after that. But look at that dissipation, just like, whoosh, it gone.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking through up there going, I got to cut a few of those trees down because a couple of those 80, 100-foot, that one 100-foot pine there is leaning over. Got a bunch of deadfall in there I need to cut out. None of it very good firewood.
Well, I want you to know I'm kicking myself a million times for not being your neighbor. But live and learn. So if you see any other property for sale, well, I would prefer a house, because I think we're just too late in the game for construction projects.
Yeah. I did talk to a realtor the other day because she was up at the Amish farm and was showing them some maps of the area, because the Amish want to expand out. They want to get another couple hundred acres. And I was asking her after she talked to them, you know, to find 200 acres out here that's all adjacent is nearly impossible. But because it's the Amish, people are willing to sell some of their land to get it, like me and you. So I said, yeah, well, how much land is around? She goes, There's zero inventory out. Zero inventory. Hasn't been in over a year. Like, everything's sold here. And the minute it comes on, 2 days later, max, it's gone. That's how quickly everything sells here. And it wasn't like that. And I asked, well, how long has it been like this? And she said, you know, it's COVID time. But before, it's like, there were always farms, always homes, always property for sale around here, you know. They struggled at some points to even get buyers to come out here this far into the countryside and even look at places. And now from that into a zero inventory state. And even people, you know, the economy's crashing and stuff, but out here it's like, no, my farmland's worth its weight in gold, not leaving, it'll just accrue in price. So they really aren't even, having any panic sellers out here, like, oh, I maybe overbought at the wrong time. Everybody's like, got a little piece I can grow some food. I don't care what it costs. I'm going to ride it out, because in the city, you're going to be a little bit dicier in the cities, I think. And who do you trust in a city too? Like, who do you know in your neighbors? Like, as I mentioned, a 100-foot pine in there that's really lean, and I need to cut it down. It's going to fall in a storm for sure, or 90-foot tall. Let's say you live in a 10-floor building. How many of your neighbors do you know in those 10-floor buildings that you live in any one city? You might. I lived in like that in Asia, and I think I only knew my next door neighbors hardly at all.
I live in a town on 49, and I only knew two people, well, 3 people, 4 people, but one has left to take care of her elderly dad. So now she's down. Now I only know 3 people, and I mean, and they're very closed. I moved to, so if you're thinking of buying in rural America, they really don't like newcomers. You think you're in a foreign land. I mean, that's what happens to expats when they go to a different country. They are not, Americans have a bad reputation. And
terrible.
So since I'm not like a multi-generational farmer, I mean, I do come from that, but not in their area. So they look at me as a foreigner. And so, you know, as a single woman, it's not the place to be. You want to be with like-minded individuals, because I'm well prepared, but I can't just be up day and night, 24 hours a day.
Nobody can.
Protecting my supplies. It's important right now to make moves to be with like-minded individuals.
Yeah, because a lot of people realize that they're running for panic, and they don't really want to be part of the community. They're just going to come out and not really mooch on the community, but you just ran away from your problem, and maybe you brought your garbage thoughts with you that caused the problems to begin with, and now you're out in the middle of there. So unless you're getting involved in things like the Bee Club, unless you're going down at the farmers meetings, or going to local coffee shops, going into the co-op, knowing people in your local co-ops, going down, I don't know, the Amish farm, helping them out, buying local meat from places. Unless you're out in that community doing things and meeting people, yeah, they are going to look and say, oh, you're just here. And then what happens when it does go down? What skills do you have? You can't do anything except type on a computer. Now what? You know, and then they just because you're out in the countryside, what do you think? People are just going to support you with free food because you're there? Unless you can provide a skill that helps everybody. You know, I'm still trying to find my skill sets that work best.
Well, there's also the stamina. You have to not only have the skill set, but you have to have the stamina, which is why I've always had my hands in the dirt to keep my stamina level up. People go, I don't know how you do it. Do what you do and do organic gardening and canning, and you're dehydrating, and you're on air, and you're doing this, and now I'm going around the country. It's because I've kept my stamina up. I've got a question for you. So like in the last week, I can't believe how many people I've heard say, I have brain fog or brain fog. I can't think. I have brain fog. Have you been hearing that lately more and more?
More and more. But I'm looking at it like, all right, we still need to get that part of the field done. We need to cut those trees down. There's a tree that fell right in the middle of the field, so we can't really bush hog through there without getting that out of the way. Got that one beehive over there that needs to be wintered out. We got a couple beehives back here that need to be wintered out. It's like every day. It's never nonstop. Like you got a property like this, there's never not something to do, right? But I'm foggy at times, like doing the videos, and I'm really like gotta pull my teeth to get up on the videos because I'm looking, going, all right, we're changing seasons. We need to plant this. Got to get the things for the chicken. Like those are food things. Bush hogging out here, cutting the forest, getting that tree line and that creek line done. It's a huge one because we couldn't get in the mower. Our mower broke this year and we didn't get it back. And then everything grew so fast from the initial rain, so we couldn't get the back field under control. So we're just like, we'll let it go and we'll bush hog it at the end. But now all these trees grew up through the plant. Like anything along a creek, like ferocious growing. You need to come in with a bucket and rip that down every single year and sculpt your creek again and really keep on top of it. There's a lot of stumps still down there, and sometimes you hit them with the mower blade, and we need to do a little TLC on the creek.
Yeah, better do it before, maybe you'll be able to continue in the future or not,
Yeah, because we got to build a rock wall right where the little culvert is there because it's starting to wash out, so we got to build a little rock wall so the water funnels more into the pipe, and then get some stuff done by the house and clear that little hillside so we can put a bunch of berry bushes on there for this coming year. So
well, it's beautiful out here.
It's a never-ending task.
Yep.
And I have had brain fog. I've had it myself of getting motivated to get tasks done online, like to pop out in here and do something. That's a little easier than getting the work done. But yeah, brain fog is I don't know what it is. You were talking about the Schumann resonance changing a little bit, or some sort of something's definitely changing in our Earth's magnetic field that's affecting the human now, for sure. It's measurable now.
Yeah, I agree. DARPA has this Ouija thing up there, and it's got ground truthing, which goes under the Earth, and there's something called the Schumann resonance. It really gives us peace when we get our bare feet on grass or in sand, but they're going to mess it up with their ground truthing. So it's going to be chaos in the sky, chaos under our earth, under our feet. It's going to be just all the different cycles and things that are happening on the earth. It's going to be societal upheaval and biological upheaval in plants and animals and people. The plants are actually getting their essential oil, which is their defense against environmental attack, are getting stronger. So the pharmaceutical companies are considering and pondering, and you can find this out at the NIH, making essential oils pharmaceuticals because they're getting so concentrated, because that's the plant defense system. So they feel that the average person cannot handle it because, there's the people that take essential oils responsibly, and then there's the one that says, oh, 1 drop is good and 25 drops is better,
No, not really.
Yeah, these days that's not a wise plan because they are getting more concentrated. It didn't used to be that way, but it is now in growing intensity, and they'll probably the essential oils will be getting stronger every year now because the rest of our lifetime is going to be a little interesting.
A little bit. All right, Celeste, well, thanks for talking. I see the dogs down there visiting together, and I heard them.
They're on to us now.
They're on to us. Uh-oh. Run for your life.
That's it. We better run for our lives.
It's an augmented transhuman coming up the hill at full sprint.
No, it's not a DARPA dog. Those are our babies.
Yeah.
Our loving babies.
Anything to sign us off with? I'll put all the links below so you can find Celeste's site, Shepherd's Heart.
.life. Or celestialreport.com or Rumble, Celeste Solum, one word.
And then also you got some books over on Amazon. Thank you for the kind donation, the cookbook that we got there. Dynamite. I'm going to put the link below so you can check that out too, because looking at that earlier was like, what? That was a solid nugget right there.
Well, did you ever get my electromagnetic radiation protection solutions?
I did not.
Well, then I am going to have to give you that one too. So there's electromagnetic radiation protection solutions. And why is this so incredible? Because we've been talking about what the EMF and all this is chaos it's going to cause. So these are supplements and foods that have radioprotective barriers for your body. And you have many of them on the shelf right now that will protect you against alpha, gamma, beta, delta radiation. And it can come from a nuclear blast, it can come from cosmic rays, or even things like 5G and 6G. So these are supplements and foods that help keep us impervious. Oh, I got to tell you this to side off. You know, I am what I am as far as misreporter on this, revealing and exposing what's going on. So they're going to turn the military people into CRISPR critters. I call them CRISPR critters. They're going to molecularly change at down to the molecular level soldiers to be resistant to this EMF barrage and array that we are exposed to.
Yeah, they already know exactly what frequency's coming in
Yep.
and how intense it'll be. That's why all these changes are here.
Yep.
Like somebody already knows the cycle intensity, and that's the whole thing is they know the cycle intensity. They're trying to change things to ride through it. So what all these changes we're seeing right now is just they already know how they need to get through it somehow, or at least believe they can.
Yes. So I would take Celeste's book over being a CRISPR critter. So anyway, check it out on Amazon.
Ooh, very exciting. Hope everybody got something out of the video and the conversation today that can help you move forward and get a little more prepared for the changes we're experiencing right now. Bye for now.
Bye.